Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Good. Hello.
Hi.
Happy Thursday, which is the day we're recording this. Maybe not the day that people are listening to it, but
Oh, it's going to do me in if it's not released on a Thursday now.
we have to change our whole plan.
Yeah, OCD.
So today we are talking about behavioural science. We touched on this slightly in our last episode you and I did together.
Yeah.
Where we were talking about digital marketing skills. So I thought it was worth delving into a little deeper. So I found from my experience, it's something you could sometimes touch on in, say, a marketing degree, which we talked about before.
Yep.
But then sometimes we get into strategy and we get into the actual marketing world, and we're doing things but we're not necessarily thinking about why we're doing them or why we work or why they work. So like an example of this would be, say, you'll hear this a lot from brands and you'll hear this a lot from people internally where they're like, influencer marketing is working really well. Yeah, great, it is. But why is it working really well? It's herd mentality. And once you understand that, you start to think of it differently. You start to actually understand exactly why that strategy works well and how it could work for your business. And I think from my point of view, looking at it from that starting point of, okay, understanding behavioural science and why it plays such an important role into marketing and why it shapes absolutely everything, means that when you're looking at your strategy, you coming at it from that point of view of, this is how we know people interact with things and this is how we know people's brains work and this is what works to sell to people. How do we then introduce that into our strategy rather than thinking on it in reverse, which is quite often how it's done, where people go, okay, so now what do we need? Well, influence marketing works, so let's put that in, rather than thinking, how do we tap into herd mentality? And I think it's something we've lost a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's probably because we've gone into an era of performance marketing being the one and only thing that we're focusing on, rather than thinking about the product, the brand, where the customer is, what the customer's thinking per platform. And I think that, that's been accelerated, hasn't it?
Yeah, massively. But if you look back to, say, I don't know, maybe like the 90s, like classic like
Good
90s
old days.
marketing.
Yeah.
Those campaigns that were really successful then were all rooted very much around like behavioural science.
I think that's probably because the diversity of platform was so much less. So the creative agency that were obsessed with the colour palette of a print ad was because that was a lever that they had to be able to pull at that point. Whereas now, the umbrella that all the platforms sit under, that marketers have to have an awareness of and a knowledge of, is so vast and also quite underestimated, that the availability for each person within marketing to have an understanding of that is just getting smaller and smaller.
But the basic principles would still apply to any platform.
Yeah, but like I say, there's so much other things to focus on in a ROI-driven world that it just gets overlooked.
It does, but I don't think that's a good thing. I think
it's a bad thing.
I think that's a huge problem that we're facing now.
Yeah, the frustrating thing is as well, whilst the platform choice and the user journeys have changed, the data availability also allows for that analysis to be done fairly easily.
But not necessarily considerately. People will look at it and they'll be like, might do an A/B test where one's put out as, say, a limited time offer and one's just put out as normal. And they'll be like, oh, well, this one performed better. Great, we'll run with that. But they don't look into, right, why has that performed better? Why do people come to that? And then how do we focus the rest of our marketing around that? Like, cool, we'll just run that ad then.
It's because we're ROI first. So marketing campaigns are getting conceived and executed on that one metric, which is at the end of the journey.
Yeah.
When in reality, you need to be doing that research at the start before you conceive a campaign and then testing against it. But it just doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen. How do you think?
This bleeds into the conversations that we've been having and the narrative that's in the marketing world at the moment around brand building, though.
100%. Like, basically, that's what it is. Like, brand building, like, understanding your audience is literally, like, the number one thing that's most important. And building up your brand to focus and build up people from that audience that are following you is literally, like, the core thing that should just be the done thing, but it's not.
ROI driven.
Yeah.
It's because people are focused on the value exchange rather than realizing that if you build a brand and you worry about the audience, the conversions will fall in. It's like I saw a graph the other day that was performance marketing versus brand marketing and the speed in which performance marketing decays versus brand. And the efficacy was the same curve. Mm-hmm. So if you do a brand campaign, for example, people sometimes misconceive that a performance marketing campaign is turn it on fast.
Yep.
Same execution for brand, but the longevity in a brand campaign, I think, is more than double from memory.
That imagine it just keeps climbing.
Yeah, if you're consistent, but in isolation, if you look at a brand execution versus a performance execution, there's probably an additional 3 months of benefit. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not as clearly measurable. It is measurable, but it's not as clearly measurable. And it's not as vast in terms of instant gratification. So the CFO is like, where's his revenue? That revenue is going to come, and it'll probably come in a larger scale than you would get from the performance campaign. But you're going to have to wait a bit longer. And then, if you do consistent brand, it will continue to come. And then, if you layer in performance on top, you see where I'm going?
Yeah, 100%. And it does, like, all that does play back to behaviour and how people actually think, but definitely we're seeing less of it on the performance side of stuff. But even on brand side of stuff, people still forget it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's fewer brands that truly understand their customer and their audience than there used to be. But I think that, again, speed of execution. If you have an idea for a brand, like how many, let's use clothing, how many clothing brands pop up, get a Shopify site, try to get a flow of revenue before they do anything else. And then you look at someone like Represent, who have gone luxury end, bespoke design, community-led. They've just been valued at over 100 million.
Yeah.
They've built a community. They've built a audience. They understand their brand. They understand how to talk to them.
But here's the thing, like, so going back to like what I was saying before, why does community work? It's your herd.
It's principles.
Yeah, but people forget that bit. They're just like, oh well, we just have all these people that chat to each other, and that's great, and they support our brand. But you're actually forgetting like the core principle of why that's important and why that works for people's brains. And I think that's where like people know these things work, but they forget to understand why.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if it's all rooted back in science, and everybody thinks marketing is so far removed from science, and actually they're literally completely interlinked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that, we just don't ever really talk about.
Yeah, it's fair.
But like you said, if we're just constantly looking for results and we're constantly looking to make money quickly, then it's impossible to do that. There might be some things that we've done within that campaign that we can root back to, oh, well, we know that worked because of X, Y, Z, and we can route that back to it. But actually, we're not going in with that at the front of our minds. And this is sort of what we were saying in the previous episode about marketing skills. Like, if you've got a foundation and basic understanding of like psychology and behavioral science, you've literally got a foundation and basic understanding of marketing at that point.
Yeah, conceptually,
yeah. And you could kind of look at a marketing campaign and probably go, this is why it would work on this, or the other really important thing, this is why it won't work.
Yeah, I think if you've got that level of understanding, it's how that knowledge influences your output. That's what's missing.
Yeah.
The connection between them up front. And I think that there is a lot to be said for understanding that. And I think there is a lot of conversation turning towards marketing effectiveness, for example, mental availability, how that plays into your campaigns. That is starting to surface. But again, we're still in an era of instant gratification. And how much am I getting back for what I'm giving you? It's a really difficult narrative to try and push back against.
Yeah. 100%.
Because the whole world seems to be performance based.
And also the economy we're in right now, that's what people need. They need the money. But we're also in a time where people are less willing to part with their money, which is where understanding them comes in to play. Here's a question for you. So a lot of behavioural science is rooted around, in marketing, is rooted around persuasion and getting people through the door and getting them invested in your product or your service. Where do you think the cutoff is between persuasion and manipulation? Because a lot of people look at marketing and they'll look at ads and they'll just be like, oh, it's just manipulation.
I'm going to use the same example. A brand looking for instant revenue is where it turns into manipulation. Like you'll see a misrepresentation of a product in an ad. You'll probably get to the point where you purchase that product and then the product that arrives is vastly different to what you've been led to believe. That's manipulation. And that's happening at scale. Like the amount of creative that goes out, because it's relatively straightforward to develop something that looks a certain level of professional, and the platform cost is so low to put an Instagram ad up, and the targeting is so good that you can generally get something in front of the right type of people roughly for your product. And if it's a low cost or a under 50 quid or $100 product, you're going to get some sales through. But then they'll never buy from you again. And then what I will say is the capability of applying personalization to your campaigns now is at a level that we've never really seen before because of AI. So when it comes to the difference between manipulation and persuasion, I think you know if you're not telling the truth. However, there are also a load of stuff that you can do to make that person's experience feel like you're just talking to them that we weren't capable of doing 5 years ago. So I think in a roundabout way to answer that question, it would be quite simply ask the question, am I being truthful with this journey or not?
Yeah, is this transparent? Is it honest?
And then that in itself should be quite a clear answer. Am I advertising what I'm selling? No. Right. That's probably manipulation then.
And also, do I care about the person that's on the other end of this sale? If the answer is no, then you are just there to manipulate them. If the answer is yes, then you've probably at that point done everything right in the journey to get them through the door because you not just, obviously, yes, you want them to buy your product, but also you want them to buy your product because you know it's going to be good for them. You know it's going to give them something back. You know it's actually going to help them.
I think that's a big movement as well, isn't it? Like, people want to purchase from brands that have that mentality.
Yeah.
Whether you're selling a food product, clothing, a car, doesn't matter. People want to think this brand cares that I'm buying their product, and vice versa.
But again, there's a whole psychology thing that plays into that hugely.
Yeah.
There's the whole, people want to, I can't remember what it's called, generosity something. People want to purchase from somebody where they feel like they're getting more back than just what they're buying. And whether that's through a brand or whether, say, you buy this, we'll plant 10 trees.
It's value alignment, isn't it? And you look at some CEOs like an Elon Musk or James Watt, people disassociate themselves with the brands that they're in control of because of their values.
Because they're dickheads.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. There's a whole other topic there, isn't there? I mean,
how have we not done that one?
I mean, yeah.
Whole sub-series.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Do you want to do this or that?
Yes.
Okay. Behavioural science based. Scarcity or social proof? Which is more effective?
I think social proof, because I don't think scarcity truly exists.
No. Limited offer.
I just don't. I think
none of it's real anymore.
I think people are like, nah, they ain't got 3 left.
No.
But
it does make you think. It's never gonna stop. It's never gonna be obsolete because
it'll always be in play.
Yeah.
But what's more valuable? Someone saying to you, "Have you seen this?" Or a review from a real person, or they've only got 2 left.
Yeah.
I know which one would influence me more.
And especially in today's social media world, we know which one works best.
Yep.
So best use of anchoring.
Best use of anchoring.
Mm-hmm. Pricing or product positioning. Which would you want to put in their head first?
Product, because it ties into brand. Yeah. Apple, prime example.
Agree. And you actually see a lot of people just going straight in with price first.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine, but then that's literally what your person's thinking about the whole time. They've seen the price first, and that's what they're considering for the rest of anything that you're showing them. Which is all right if it's reasonably priced, but...
Yeah, I just don't think it's longevity.
No.
It's like, yeah, you want that association, don't you? Look at Apple are perfectly positioned for that answer. They are the brand.
Yeah. Literally, like, if you want marketing behavioural science textbook, they were like the first to do so many things and keep it going.
I mean, look, yeah, you take it back to like the launch of the iPhone and Steve Jobs' mentality on you need to tell people what they want before they know that they need it. Mm-hmm. Power.
Yeah. Personalization or urgency?
Personalization.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. As I read it, I was like, is this even worth asking?
It ties into what we've just been saying there, doesn't it? But I think personalization it's in for a tough ride because the capability, like I was saying before, of being able to like hyper personalize every interaction is just getting more and more prevalent.
Yeah, so it's not going to stand out anymore.
So it's going to lose its efficacy. So you're going to have to do more to make sure that people feel it, because habituation will dictate that it becomes almost numb. Mm-hmm. Interesting to see where innovation will go with personalization, though. Like we're in a season of everything being super personalized. However, what's beyond that?
It's almost like impossible to predict that.
I saw an AI avatar this morning, and I was like, I can't really tell the difference between that. Can you imagine buying an iPhone and getting an email with a video from Tim Cook that addresses you by name? Even if you knew that were fake, it'd probably still make you smile.
You'd still watch it.
That's the next step, I think. But beyond that, I don't know.
And that, I mean, once upon a time, that was, the whole email thing where it came from a founder or an individual as opposed to like a business. But that's become boring really quick.
Well, it's scaled, didn't it?
Yeah. But it doesn't have the impact that it once.
Yeah. I think personalization and like using the founder example, and I think the Stanley Cup debacle, I'm going to call it, popped into my head there, and the CEO that led that campaign, which made it blow up, that feels like almost accessible.
Yeah.
Because of the way that tech's going. And I feel like it'll be something along those lines that we see starting to happen.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I think with like personal branding, for example, obviously we're talking about mega CEOs having a presence, whether they have curated that or not, but with personal branding the way it's going, that's going to be power, isn't it? Even in a niche. So being able to make someone feel special will fall to the influence.
But that again that comes down to, again, another form of behavioural science, where like we are programmed to look for the expert because of the way that our entire lives have been led. So you've got your parents, your teachers, doctors. We always look to them for advice. We always look to them for opinion. And then as we've got older, now we all look to experts. And that's where your personal brands are coming into such big play. All again, rooted in science.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. Good.